Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and we finally have an idea as to what the San Francisco 49ers might do in this year's 2026 NFL Draft, which is 3 days away at the time of recording. It's gotten here pretty quick, folks, and the time is a ticking. But thankfully, Niners GM John Lynch revealed how many first-round talents the Niners currently have on their draft board, what they may do in this year's draft, and more importantly, he kind of hinted at where they view the biggest needs for the Niners in this year's draft are at position-wise. We'll also get into some rumors circulating leading into draft day regarding Mac Jones and Brandon Aiyuk, and we'll, of course, dive into the big news, that being Trent Williams re-signing with the San Francisco 49ers. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave us that 5-star audio podcast review, and let's dive into today's show, which is jam-packed, starting off with something that happened at around 5 a.m. on the West Coast. Funny enough, I couldn't sleep last night. Woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning. My dog's whining, "Let me out. I have to go to the bathroom." I'm like, okay, we'll go outside. We go outside. We've all had this happen to us. Take the dog outside, you wake up, you don't want to, you're like, oh man, it's cold out there, you got a shirt on, you got your shorts on, you're just like, ooh, I'm freezing. Come back inside, you get back in bed, your lovely wife's laying there just mouth agape, she's just like, what's going on? She has no idea what's happening. You get back in bed, and you can't fall asleep. So what do? It's 2026, you're an adult man, you just peruse the internet. You go on Instagram, you go on Twitter, and I don't know why, granted it's the East Coast, but Adam Schefter, Rappaport, all the big name reporters are putting out news at 3 a.m. on the West Coast. We hear of Mac Jones rumors, Brandon Aiyuk stuff. They're releasing the latest draft intel. And I'm like, well, I got the time. So I read that, go to bed, what else could happen today? I wake up around 7:30, take my wife to work, and I'm going through Twitter, and I'm like, oh my God, Trent Williams re-signed. What? Okay. And first off, I think most Niner fans expected this news to happen. I don't think, at least on the show, we didn't think it wasn't going to get done. This was always the plan. With the way the Niners talked about it, with the way that the offseason went, it wasn't like San Francisco was hearing trade offers or pitching, trades, calling, picking up the phone, right? Trying to see what Trent is worth. They want Trent to be on the team. They view him as a lifelong 49er, and he did sign a brand new 2-year deal worth $50 million that keeps him on the San Francisco 49ers, signed through 2027. The contract includes a fully guaranteed $37 million and a $22 million signing bonus, which makes Trent Williams, the ever-deserving Trent Williams, the first non-quarterback in NFL history to surpass $400 million in total contracts and $225 million in guarantees. Man, it is good to be the silverback. Man, it is good to have the leverage Trent has had over the 49ers now 3 separate times. So good for him, good for the 49ers. And again, we have seen mock draft after mock draft. They're taking Caleb Lomu, Max Ihanicher, Blake Miller, Monroe Freeling, and you're like, okay, not to say San Francisco can't take a tackle, but it's like, why are we mocking the Niners a tackle? Because a lot of that was built off of, we have no idea what's going to happen with Trent Williams. And it's like, yeah, we do. He's going to re-sign. Now, again, that doesn't mean San Francisco doesn't want to take a tackle. I think it makes it less of a need. I never viewed offensive line, at least the tackle position, as a draft day need, knowing you have your 2 tackles locked in place. Now, Trent really is locked in place for the next 2 years. It does put, I believe, Colton McKivitz and Trent on the same timeline of play, but also needing to be replaced when the time comes. Now, Trent, I think, is 37, so he'll be 39 at the end of this deal if he were to play it all the way through. And, when I saw the deal on X or Twitter, I think the initial thought was like, good. It's before the draft, get it out of the way. No one's sitting in the back of their head, could they trade Trent? Like checks a box off for the offseason, which has been really successful for the 49ers so far. You signed a bunch of guys in the offseason during free agency. You made, at least on paper, the right moves for your franchise. And now Trent's locked up. It's like, we have no contracts we're like worried about. As a franchise, as a fan base, as a team, it's like, that's all done, which happened last year too. And you saw the benefits of that throughout the season. Now, obviously, the season had a lot of negative things, mainly injuries. But like, you saw what it was like to have everybody ready to go, not named Brandon Aiyuk, from day one, out there practicing, out there at OTAs and minicamp. And funny enough, this happens on day one of their offseason program. Now, I don't know if Trent's showing up. I don't think he is. I think John Lynch said that for the most part, everybody's there. You saw Fred Warner's there, Brock Purdy's there, Mike Evans is there, Osa Odigizua was there today. So it does seem like that they had a timeline set of like, we want to get this thing done. I think Adam Schefter said that this thing had been like near the goal line for 2 weeks, which goes against everything Jason La Canfora has been saying, which don't trust him. He doesn't know anything. He had a website dedicated to him of being wrong all the time. Not a good source. Don't use him. He knows absolutely nothing. It's shocking how little he knows. But I digress. This thing was going to get done. Whether we liked it, whether mock drafts said it was a problem or a concern for San Francisco or a need, this was always going to get done. Shockingly, a little lower than I thought it would be. Like, we talked about Laramie Tunsil and what he got, albeit he's way younger than Trent is, near 10 years younger than Trent. But I thought it was pretty cheap. Like, I think Trent could have held out for more money, made this a bigger problem. But I think this is pretty reasonable. 2 years, $50 million, about $25 million, on average. It's not going to break the bank for the Niners. I think they actually saved $20 million in the cap this year. So there is a sense of them saving some money, whether it's rollover cap or to eventually take the Brandon Aiyuk dead cap hit once he's off the books, whether this year or as a post-June first cut. But my other thought, besides, great, Trent's done, it's over with, was, and this is me nitpicking and being a little, jealous, not jealous, but maybe being a little bit, okay. Maybe me being a little bit greedy is the word I'll use. It was like, you couldn't have waited until after the draft. Just because at pick 27, let's say Maxi Honiger is still there. Let's say there are other teams that view tackle as a need. And there is that looming threat of, San Francisco, Trent Williams, like, what's going to happen? The Patriots call San Francisco. What are you doing? Well, if we're not making a deal, we're taking a Honiger. And the Patriots are like, we want a Honiger. Maybe that could have drawn up some interest. Drawed up some interest for the 49ers with the trade back potential, which I think is their best bet at getting more talent on the roster this year in the first round. So again, that's kind of like it's me being greedy, like, getting Trent done is much more important than having that kind of, potential trade back option in their back pocket. But the big question now that Trent is done is, does this remove tackle off the board at pick 27? Now, I'm not somebody who thought tackle was on the board at pick 27, so that probably tells you my answer there. But for the sake of content, let's talk about this because there are a lot of teams that need tackles, right? You can talk about the Browns, maybe the Bengals. The Chiefs are oddly mocked a tackle at times. I don't buy it though. The Cowboys may want a tackle. The Dolphins could want a tackle, or at least like an offensive lineman guard hybrid earlier in the draft. You've seen teams like the Patriots want one. They seemingly have Maxi Honicher in their head, but the Lions on top of that too. Like there's a lot of teams that are wanting top offensive linemen. And I think this is a sort of deep draft for tackle. It kind of is the first like 5 to 7 players. You're like, okay, like these are good prospects. And then some are kind of like the guard hybrids of like, could they be a tackle? Could they be a guard? You get into more your Jennings Dunkers or where it's like, he's not really a tackle, but in a pinch, could he play tackle? It's more of a guard. And then you kind of get into your, not projects, but like you have your Drew Sheldons, you have your Emil Wagners, you have your JC Davises, your Jude Bowery's kind of in the middle, 3rd or 4th round range. And I just kind of think about it from a perspective of, the Niners don't need a tackle. They never have needed a tackle now, and I don't get the constant conversation amongst the fan base, not at guard, but at tackle of like, well, you have to find the heir apparent to Trent. Why? I know there's injury concerns, but he was a top 5 left tackle last year. What is the need to draft a player that, let's say it's Maxi Honicher, played a right tackle at Arizona State, could play guard, maybe he won't play guard. Like, my biggest fear is that San Francisco takes a tackle, no matter who it is, Caleb Lomu, whether it's Maxi Honicher, somebody, right? And that player either is blocked by the 2 tackles they have, or when they try to play him at left guard, that right now being their biggest offensive line hole, the guy can't play. Like, think about Aaron Banks, for example. And I'm not comparing whoever they may pick to Aaron Banks, but it's a similar situation, right? The Niners picked Aaron Banks in 2021 with the hope that, okay, he's a left guard of the future once Laken Tomlinson goes, but in the meantime, in his first year, he can play right guard. Aaron Banks could never play right guard. Thus, it was a lost first year for a second-round draft pick. And the Niners needed a right guard in 2021. And then Laken Tomlinson leaves, Banks slides over, plays pretty well for San Francisco, leaves for $72 million last offseason for the Packers, and it was a massive overpay. All that to say, while that kind of worked out, right, didn't get a second deal from San Francisco for all the right reasons, but it's like, I don't want to draft a player at 27, and Banks was a second-round draft pick. I don't want to draft a player at 27, have them either, one, be blocked by somebody else, and we'll get into receiver in a second there because there's a couple guys that could be blocked by who they have in the room right now. But also, 2, maybe can't play the spot they're hoping for a year to patch a hole or 2 years to patch a hole. He can't play. And so if you do that, you have to be really particular in who you pick, and that may not work out. So that's why I don't think tackle makes the most sense. You are banking on that player, whoever it is, who likely did not play guard in college, having to slide over for the first time in their career or in recent years and hope they can hang, whereas you're grooming them to be a tackle of the future playing guard in the intermediate. And it's like, that doesn't always work out. Sometimes it does, but it's like, that almost seems like a theoretical situation rather than a likely one for me. And I'm trying to base my draft knowledge, my draft predictions, projections in, what actually could happen. And there are very few players I think are worth taking at 27 that can play guard and play tackle. When it's like, if you want a guard bad enough, just take a guard. That's fine. You want Emmanuel Pregnon? You want Rutledge from Georgia Tech? Fine. I don't love that, but I can swallow it. I can understand, okay, play the trenches. You play in Seattle twice a year. You play the Rams twice a year. Okay, that makes sense. Like, if you're in that dire need to protect your quarterback, which you should be, and improve your running game, which you should be, just take the guard and figure out tackle later. There's no harm in doing that. Like, Why? Oh, we have to take the 8th best tackle. We have to take Caleb Lomu, who's more of a second-round prospect, in my opinion, because he can play tackle. When what you really want is him to play guard for the next 2 years. Just take the freaking guard. What is the point? So I think tackle is off the board for me. And I think it is off the board for San Francisco, at least at pick 27. And I don't think there's really any tackles at this point in time. We're taking at pick 58. There's kind of that 3rd to 4th round sweet spot for tackles, depending on who you like. If you want to redshirt a guy bad enough, just take Isaiah World and say, hey, you're not going to play this year. Get healthy off a torn ACL, and we'll see you in 2027. Take the guy in round 4 or 5. Call it a day. Don't take the guy at 27 and be like, oh, tackle of the future, maybe a guard of now. Don't do that. That's a waste. Moving along, though, to the rest of the news that dropped today, that being Monday, April 20th. Happy 420 to those that celebrate. You had the Hot Box Wingstop meal. I had that a couple days ago. It was really good. The nacho cheese dusting on the chicken. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. So if you are token, if you're a little, doing your thing, although not my choice of activity, if you are, Wingstop's a pretty good meal at that point in time if you have the munchies. That said, we got some Brandon Aiyuk news, although I wouldn't really call it news. I would call it things we've already known. 3rd edition. Where the Niners, or at least in this case, Brandon Aiyuk, is a quote-unquote name to watch on draft night in a potential trade. That means nothing to me. Of course, he's a name to watch. Doesn't mean a name to, believe will get traded. A name to watch. That's all it is, oh, look, I'm watching Brandon Aiyuk's name. What's happening? Nothing. Now, John Lynch did drop some news today stating that he has talked to some teams about the availability of Brandon Aiyuk. Although he did call it he said it was not a high probability Aiyuk gets dealt during the draft. Which we've talked about this before. My stance is the same. Like, they are hoping that a wide receiver needy team is like, oh, we didn't get one. Aiyuk, what are you doing? That's the same. Like, I'm not gonna regurgitate that take for the sake of doing it. That's where things still stand. However, I do think we have to kind of talk about quickly here Brandon Aiyuk, the person, because Larry Krueger made a pretty good point. Good friend of the show. I'm on a show every single week on Thursdays. That, why haven't we seen Brandon Aiyuk? Like, if he's eager to play football, why haven't we seen Aiyuk? And I think it's a good point. Now, I want to kind of turn that in. I don't know why we haven't seen Aiyuk. You would think if he wants to play football, he'd be out there posting videos, making himself known. However, that makes me lean, and maybe he is working out, and we just don't see it, and he realizes, look, this is a bad situation for me. The less I say, the less I do, the better. Stay out of the public eye, and hopes that when I'm cut, then I can kind of re-enter and be like, I'm back. I'm Brandon Aiyuk. I'm BA, whether it's Washington or somewhere else. Just lay low, let things die down, let people kind of forget about you, and then move on with your life, right? That seems like the ploy. It seems like the plan, which I don't blame him. That's what I would do too if I was Brandon Aiyuk. But I think that a lot of people are focusing on, like, oh, I can't believe Brandon Aiyuk, let all the money go. I can't believe Brandon Aiyuk went AWOL. I can't believe, they had to get rid of the guarantees. And, all that is reliant, or kind of, it's discussed in like I can't believe BA did this to cause this, right? To cause that. And that all makes sense. I get it. Like, we're all still trying to make sense of what exactly happened. We have an idea, but don't really have the full picture. I do wonder, though, like, Brandon Aiyuk, the player, coming off a massive knee injury in itself is a risk. Some teams would still trade for a player that had the injury Brandon Aiyuk had. This is not a player issue. This is a person issue, right? And so I think that Brandon Ayuk, the person, like if you took away all of the Brandon Ayuk, offseason nonsense, right? And it said it's just the player, he get dealt in a heartbeat. You fifth round pick, fourth round pick, sixth round pick, like whatever. He get dealt in a heartbeat. It's the person that's the problem. Teams will take gambles on guys that have torn ACLs and MCLs and PCLs. And I mean, heck, the Chiefs have guys that have almost killed people. The Eagles have guys that have killed people. Ruben Bain was in a fatal accident. He may go third overall, second overall in this year's draft, which I'm not, making light of those. But like my point more so is like people have been acquired doing way worse. So like Ayuk's injury is not the problem here. It's the person. And going back to Larry Kruger's point, it's like I don't know if him posting workout videos and like putting on social media, I want to play, is enough to make teams interested. I think Brandon Aiyuk needs to have like a full-on like PR makeover. Now, what I mean by that is like I was saying, lay low. You were in the news for all the wrong reasons all year long. Contract issues, previous offseason. You had the removal of guarantees this year. You had the short skate, in the middle of that. You heard of there being spats and going AWOL and players talking about, I haven't heard from BA in months. I haven't heard from him in weeks. I think the last time we've openly heard there be communication between a Niners player and Brandon Aiyuk was when George Kittle tore his Achilles and Aiyuk texted him, like, hope you feel better, sorry to see it. But I think this is a BA person problem, not a player problem. And I do wonder if through all of this, if the person of Brandon Aiyuk is holding things up, which it seems like it is. Like you can talk about all the contract stuff and say, well, no dust throwing. That's the problem here. But I mean, is like because Aiyuk is laying low, because Aiyuk isn't posting social media videos of him working out and being in shape, and like no one has seen him, there is a sense of out of sight, out of mind. No team is going to call Brandon Aiyuk and be like, or the Niners and say, hey, what do you want from BA? And San Francisco would say literally anything. Okay, well, have you talked to him? No. Have you seen him? No. What's his medical like? I don't know. What's his physical like? I have no idea. He won't respond to us. So I think that to me is what's holding things up for the Niners. And I wouldn't bank on them trading him unless, again, like I've said before, someone gets desperate. A team like the Patriots, who it looks like are going to trade for A.J. Brown this offseason. And that compensation will be 2027, it seems like. Really, the Niners will be best getting 2027 compensation no matter what for Aiyuk. But I just don't see a team doing that unless it is, the Commanders or someone like that, which maybe, but who knows. Anyways, moving along. Enough with Brandon Aiyuk. John Lynch talked about this today about free agency and how it paved the way and set the table for the draft. And the reason I bring this up is because a lot of people, including myself, are like, because you filled so many needs in free agency, you have the ability to take BPA. And because this draft is, I don't want to say volatile, but there's so many wild cards where it's like, yeah, you can go receiver, you can go edge, you can go offensive lineman, you can go, defensive tackle, you can go cornerback, but like there's so many variables in place. John Lynch said he has like below 20 first round grades. I'd agree. I think it's more towards like 13, 14, which, I mean, yeah, this class is not very good. It's a lot of good, like B to C plus tier players with a handful of like legit blue chip A plus talent. And when you have that, like you kind of, BPA becomes tougher to acquire, but it also means that, BPA may be just get the most talented player on the board because of the draft right now in this class, especially, is kind of a crapshoot. But Lynch mentioned, I think in particular here, when discussing, we filled receiver needs and we filled, defensive line needs and everything, he kind of, I don't want to say let it slip, but you can tell like by the way someone like subconsciously just like prioritizes things. Like when someone talks to you and you say, "Hey, list your three most important things to you," or you're talking in general, and like people will come to the defense of, people will, use certain examples simply because they value those things, right? Whereas John Lynch today mentioned like, "Yeah, we need an edge rusher." Oh, but also offensive line and receiver. It's like, okay, well, I mean, come on, right then and there, like, yeah, we have to get an edge. Oh, but also offensive line's deep too, and so is receiver. It's like, okay, well, I mean, you kind of letting cat out of the bag there. It's like it sounds like, at least to me, edge rusher will be the pick at 27 unless something changes, and we're like, oh, didn't expect that, right? Um, but he did mention how deep the draft is at edge and offensive line and receiver, and it's like, yeah, that's why I think the first two picks, barring a trade back, need to be receiver and edge, because those positions are going to fly off the board immediately. Because people realize if I don't get one, if I wait, yeah, it's deep, but I can't wait, 60 picks for me to have a chance in the third round to get a guy. Because so many teams will say, like, the Niners have limited picks, the Seahawks have limited picks. A lot of teams this year have limited draft picks. And so it's like those teams will start grabbing those dudes early, and it's like, oh crap, the top 7 edge rushers are gone by the pick 42, and it's like, oh, what does San Francisco do? Whereas receiver, it's a deeper class, I think, at receiver than edge. Like, there's like 10 edge rushers I like. Many of them will be gone in the first, 20 picks or so. And then after that, it's like you can see guys going bang, 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 back to back to back. Whereas receiver, it's like you can sell me on Elijah Sarad at 58, or Jeremy Bernard in the early 50s or late 40s. A lot of people like Chris Brazzell. I don't. But like Chris Bell, like there are a lot of receivers you can see being game-changing talents in round 2. Whereas edge rusher, like, you may be as soon as round 2, well, in a deep class, missing out on guys you believe can be an instant impact player for you off the edge to accompany Micah Williams. With that in mind, though, I think everybody and their mother and their father and their brother and their sister are like, the Niners need to trade back. And it's true. John Lynch said today, that he thinks there'll be a lot of trades. That is an echoed sentiment from the Chiefs GM. I think his name is Brett Veach, that he expects a lot of movement on draft night. Now, it is always a bummer when it's draft night. You got your drink, your dinner, your snack, whatever you do. I, for one, will be live on the air on 95.7 The Game that day, dropping some draft knowledge on some suckers. Hopefully you out there listening. But it sucks to, okay, we're picking at 27. Can't wait. Here comes pick 1. Here comes pick 12. Okay, 13. Okay, we're only 14 picks away. Nobody move. Here we come. And then you trade back out of the first round and you're like, oh man, what a wasted Thursday night. But I think that is the best option for San Francisco, because John Lynch even said, how do we get more picks? Well, last time I checked, you can do it one of two ways. You can trade players, maybe Brandon Aiyuk, maybe it's Mac Jones. We'll get to that in a second too. Or you can trade draft picks, move back, get some more picks involved, maybe get a second, another third. Maybe you get a second now, a third this year, and a third next year. Maybe you get a second, a third, and a fourth. Like, there's ways to accumulate more draft picks. I think San Francisco should hope to have like 7 to 8 picks. They have 6 now, which isn't bad. Really, the biggest detriment they do have is that big gap from 58 to 127. And they can somehow erase that. That's a massive win for me. But it does sound like most other teams, like, people are wanting to trade back. When that happens, it usually means most teams can't trade back. Hence the BPA conversation that John Lynch brought up. And so you have to find unique scenarios where you see an aggressive team in round 2 saying, hey, I want that prospect, but the people right behind the Niners are going to take that prospect. So you're kind of begging guys like Akeem Mesidor, Ty Simpson, maybe Jordan Tyson falls because medicals. There's talks he may go 5. That's freaking nuts to me with the medical injuries he has. Um, you're kind of hoping that even like Jamal McCoy, who they're talking may fall out of the first round because medical stuff. If he's there at 27, could a team elsewhere say, I want that guy? I'll take a chance. You're kind of hoping that is what is in front of San Francisco at pick 27. You want a slew of trade back prospects where it's like, hey, you want him, come get him. Whether it's the Cardinals, the Jets, the Browns, um, other teams in early second round draft pick spaces, the Ravens, maybe. Like, you really have to hope the board falls your way. Now, because teams want to trade back, I think that's going to be nearly impossible. Not impossible, but nearly impossible. So maybe trading back from 58 is a better option and like falling more towards the 70s and accumulating another draft pick somewhere near 100, which wouldn't be too far of a fall, albeit trading back from 27 to around the 30s and early 40s, probably a better bet. I could see San Francisco moving back 58 into, the 70s or the 60s and just saying, hey, if we can get another top 100 draft pick, we're good. Which I wouldn't complain about that, but a lot of people are focused on pick 27. And John Lynch was asked, how do you balance finding an immediate impact player in a draft where you don't see 21st round draft picks and you're picking at pick 27? Do you balance an instant impact player, or do you not mind taking a guy who is blocked, for a year or two, and maybe you have to wait for his impact to come? And John Lynch, while he didn't steer away from the thought of like, yeah, we can draft a guy that maybe it takes a couple of years from the pop, it really sounded like he wanted an instant impact player. Like his exact words were, you just need an impact player. That does not sound like an offensive tackle, if you ask me, unless the guy can play guard. That does not sound like a wide receiver that will be behind Ricky Pearsall or can't play in the slot. Or maybe some would say, well, Sterling, you love Denzel Boston. That's Denzel Boston. And to some degree it is because Mike Evans is there. Maybe that's the case too. But I do think Denzel Boston can have an impact this year in this offense. But what it really sounds like is an edge player. Because later he talked about, we have to find an edge. Like, yeah, we're getting Bosa back and we're getting Michael back, and that'll improve our pass rush and our defensive line. And got Osa Odighizuwa. Like, they have made, whether it's actively making trades or just getting guys healthier, they've improved their defensive line, their pass rush. But he said we have to add to that group, which again means age at 27. Like, it really, like, if I was steering a ship and it said, to your left is a wide receiver, to your right's an edge, and straight ahead is an offensive lineman, we are steering as hard right as we possibly could. We are, Tokyo Drift, bing, 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 bing. Like, we are Paul Walker, R.I.P. We're the Vin Diesel. Like, we are shitting that puppy around, and we are this skid marks, smoke, and a bunch of attractive women out there in short skirts like the early movies were. We're like, we are a full hard set to the right. And it's funny because there's so much smoke around this time of the year. Everyone thinks they know. Everyone has a source. Agents are leaking things out there. Teams are leaking things out there, just trying to gain some leverage, try to make other teams think they're going one way when they're going a different way. And people are just trying to find an advantage. It's like anything else. It's free agency. It's, trade stuff. Any way you can find an advantage, you use that. And draft season is often, full of that stuff where it's really hard to kind of buy into the validity of a lot of the reports out there unless the teams are boring like the Chargers, where it's like nothing comes out during this time of year. But it's funny to hear John Lynch say those things. Got to have an impactful player, need an edge rusher, and kind of for a second time hint towards an edge rusher. And also say we're going to let the draft come to us, which may go back into the BPA stuff, but Todd McShay, who I respect, although is not my favorite draft content creator, not somebody I actively watch or view or listen to for my draft content. If you do, great. But he said he has heard from somebody that the Niners, if Caleb Lomu's there, they're taking him. Well, that doesn't scream an instant impact player. Now, if you don't have 27 first round grades, which they don't, no one does this year. If you do, you're wrong. Sorry. Then Caleb Lomu's a guard, and you're banking on his athleticism over, his technical skills, if you will. Where, and that's where it gets, you kind of get stuck in the mud of the Niners have a first round draft pick, but are not going to get a chance to draft a first round player. And that is why a lot of fans want to trade back outside of getting more draft picks. Where I think if you're playing Caleb Lomu at guard, just draft Emmanuel Pregnon, just draft Rutledge. I wouldn't draft Basantis. That's just me though. I think Basantis needs more time than Rutledge and Pregnon do, but I also don't think Lomu has amazing upside at being a tackle in the NFL. Maybe I'm crazy for that. That's just me. It just doesn't scream Caleb Lomu, in which Todd McShay is saying. And maybe Todd's right. Maybe he is. And if he is, I'm not going to be happy on draft night. But it kind of really seems like the Niners really want an edge rusher. I think at 27, it seems like the top of the board will be Malachi Lawrence if he's still there, Zion Young, maybe Akeem Mesidor falls. Maybe you have Cassius Howell is still there. But it kind of feels like teams don't want to make their picks, which the last thing you want to do is be a reluctant buyer. For example, me and my wife are searching for a new house, and, we got money saved up. We're actively viewing houses, and, we want to find the house that you walk in and you fall in love and you go, man, this is where I want to live. This is all this feels like a house I can call home. You don't want to buy a house, spend a lot of money, down payment, closing costs, escrow, property taxes, in some cases, albeit not in our case, HOA, and pay all that stuff and be involved in a hefty payment, get your credit score checked, which drops it. Funny enough, I don't know why it does that. It's stupid. Deal with loans and banks and credit unions at times and real estate agents, go through all the hassle and be like, it's kind of nice. It's all right. When in reality, you're like, yeah, but it has to have a lot of work. I can see it being nice in a couple years. Drafting a prospect is like drafting a house. Drafting a house. It's like buying a house. And really, it all comes down to you're investing in a property. You're investing in an area to live. You're investing in a person. You're investing in a player. That you believe that player can become something special. That you believe that property, that house will increase in value. The way you can fix it up, the way that it currently stands, you think it offers you what you're paying for it. And the Niners cannot afford, like other teams will be this year, a reluctant buyer. They can be uber aggressive, which is good. They made some pretty crappy draft day trades, in my opinion, trading up. Looking at you, Trey Lance and Joe Williams and Reuben Foster, and others involved. So I'm happy the Niners are being, it sounds like, smart. Let's see how things play out first. Again, going back to me and my wife looking for a house, we want to see every potential offer. We want to see every potential house that fits in our price range, simply because you'd rather know everything than know nothing. You'd rather know what you're getting yourself into than know a little bit of what you're getting yourself into. Ask all the right questions. Talk to the right people. Talk to your parents. Talk to my wife's parents. Talk to uncles and aunts. Talk to people at work. How'd you do this? What did you hear? Talk to the loan people. You want to leave no stone unturned because you're putting all your eggs in a basket. The Niners have put their eggs in the wrong baskets far too many times. And I think they're trying to right those wrongs, and I think they have done a pretty good job of doing so in recent years. Now, you have to have guys like Michael and Pearsall eventually pop at some point. You have to hope that Bernardo Green bounces back after an inconsistent year too. Like, I don't know why there is this sense of like, the Niners have a terrible cornerback too, and Bernardo Green. They don't. They don't. We've seen terrible cornerbacks in San Francisco. Green's not one of them. A couple of bad games, sure. He's a second-year player. It's gonna happen. And you can argue that his defensive line and pass rushing help was worse in his second year than it was in his first year. And that team sucked. So, going back to the first round stuff, like, the Niners can't be like, I guess we like this guy. Sure, we'll take Caleb Lomu. Like, no, find the guy you love, even if you reach a little bit, because you're going to reach no matter what. Like, that's the thing, too, is like, no matter who you pick at 27, they're not going to be a first-round talent. No matter who you pick at 27, it's going to be a reach because that player is a second-rounder in most drafts, in this draft. So, like, let's say Emmanuel Pregnon's there on the board, and the Niners are like, yeah, we like Lomu, but we love Pregnon, but on our board, he's a second-round talent. Just take Pregnon. If, let's say, on your board, you have Akeem Mesidor as a first-round talent, and you have Malachi Lawrence as a second-round talent, you take the first-round talent. There's drawbacks, sure. More so what I'm getting at is that you just got to find the place you love. Whether it's a house, whether it's a player, you have to find the player you like and make sure he's on your team. And that sounds so simple and easy. Like, yeah, Sterling, if it was that simple, every team would do it. But I think San Francisco's playing things right. Like, there's no need to be over-aggressive. Let things fall to you. Let things kind of fall in your lap, and see how things go. Like, my wife and I fell into the house we currently have, and it was luck, and it was a lot of help, and it was a blessing, but it worked out for 2 years, right? And it's allowed us to be able to, be able to go look for a newer house, and one that doesn't have a lot of problems. If you know, you know. But like, that's what the Niners have to do is, sometimes being patient pays off, right? My wife and I waited 6 years to get married. That was 6 years of long distance to get married, and it paid off. We live in a nice place. We live in a nice area. She has a cushy job. I'm doing my thing. No, I have a good job too. But more so what I'm saying is, like, sometimes it pays to not be over aggressive. Like, everyone's like, you got to be a go-getter and go out there and, like, you got to pave your own path. And it's like, yeah, sometimes that works out and sometimes you're right. And depending on the field and point in life you're in, like, when you're 16, you're 18, yeah, go out there and get it, push some buttons. But if you're the Niners, it's like, yeah, you're not an 18-year-old going into college. You are a franchise now 10 years deep into a regime that has to hit on these picks. So be calculated, be smart, and more importantly, don't reach. It'll be a reach, but don't reach, if that makes sense, Don't reach for a guy simply because the consensus says that guy's better. Don't reach for a guy because you have a need there at round one, but that player's better. Take the guy that you think is better. Now, that guy may fill a need, which is great. That's what you really want. Denzel Boston, Casey Concepcion, Chris Bell, Bernard, you can go Pregnon, Rutledge, all the edge rushers, basically. But like when I hear John Lynch say over and over and over again, "Well, edge. Well, edge." Okay, well, you're taking an edge, which is good because you took Michael last year, take an edge this year. You got a pair of 20, 24-year-old, 25-year-old edge rushers to accompany Bosa next to two young defensive tackles. And Osa Digizoo is under 32. It's like, okay, you have a young defense again. That's what you want. But anyways, moving along, that was a long spiel. You're probably all tuned out. But if you haven't, it's good to know. And also, a good point to remind you to use our promo code 49ers Access at SeatGeek.com. That's 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your purchase. Things are expensive. Gas has gone down a tad, but the heat's starting to come back up. I work outside all the time. My legs are sunburnt. I am a white man. These legs and this skin turns pink quick. But you can save some money. It makes your life and it makes the burn a little more soothing. It makes the burn not sting as much. And any discount's great, whether it's paying for gas, paying for your beer, paying for whatever you need to buy. In some cases, myself, I gotta find some olive vera for my sunburns. But if you can save $20 and you can pay for the olive vera, you're in a good spot. Whether it's concert tickets, sporting events, the NBA, MLB, NFL is right around the corner. Go ahead and use that promo code 49ers Access, 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com. And to wrap things up, let's talk about our boy McCorkle. And the Niners are not expected to trade Mac Jones. Yeah, sure, cool. Who'd have thought that the Niners, who didn't trade Mac Jones at all during the offseason, aren't going to trade him now on draft night? Now, I do think there is an interesting wrinkle that may come into play. And although Adam Schefter said that Mac Jones market never heated up, I think that is because San Francisco was asking way too much, so it didn't have an opportunity to. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers may re-enter the conversation. They may give the Niners a call because Mike McCarthy's the head coach now. It's assumed Aaron Rodgers will return. Now, I'm still going to be under the assumption Rodgers will come back for one more year, kind of go full circle with McCarthy. But he is not going to tell them by the draft if he's returning or not. Okay, so either they're okay waiting for Aaron Rodgers, okay willing to let Will Howard be the quarterback one, tentatively speaking, or you look elsewhere. Now you can go in the draft, you can draft Ty Simpson, you can draft Drew Aller and just hope one of these kind of project guys in the mid to late rounds works out for you. I can see teams doing that, whether it's the Jets, the Ravens, the Bengals, I'm sure should do it. Teams that, their quarterbacks are often hurt should also do it. Maybe they try to pry Jimmy Garoppolo away from retirement, I guess, which good for Jimmy, and bring him out of, his cul-de-sac of whatever he's doing right now. But I think that, if they are uncertain, if Mike McCarthy's like, hey, I can't wait for Aaron to just decide to come back. And if he does come back, whatever, fine. But in my first year as a head coach, after a disastrous Dallas Cowboys ending, I'd prefer not to become, a laughingstock in Pittsburgh after an amazing Mike Tomlin run. Because McCarthy, even if he doesn't last long in Pittsburgh, this is a chance to reprove himself for a third time as a head coach and maybe kind of finagle his way into a different job if somebody else wants to come back, like Tomlin to Pittsburgh, or something else happens, right? So I do think that the Steelers could make some sense. Now, I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers want to get rid of draft picks. That may be a little bit for lack of better term, is funky for San Francisco. Don't use that term often, but in this case I will, I guess. Or may not be the desired outcome. It's probably a better word to use, phrase to use. But I do think there may be room for a player-for-player trade because the Pittsburgh Steelers, I guess, rumored to be open to trading either Nick Herbig or Alex Highsmith off their defense. Now, the report didn't say that they wanted draft picks in return. It didn't say that, what the plan was for those players for compensation and back to the Steelers. But let's say the Niners are at pick 27 and Aaron Rodgers hasn't really done anything and they really like a receiver on the board. Whether it's Concepcion, Boston, somebody. They're like, we got to get this receiver. Shanahan's like, I'm drooling over this guy. Got to get him in my room. It's my guy. That dude is my guy. Put that guy on my offense and we're going to have some fun. If that's the case, and San Francisco wants to go receiver and wants to risk maybe not getting an edge rusher at 58, why not call the Steelers up and say, hey, you got Mac Jones here for 1 year. He wants to start. The Steelers are a Class A organization with great fans, with a great ownership group that wants to win football games, that cares about winning. McCarthy's a fine head coach. I think that Mac Jones would fit pretty well in the offense that he runs. I think as a point guard, kind of commander of the offense, if you will, I think Mac Jones could be a good quarterback for McCarthy's offense. And I think the Niners, if they don't want to wait to 58 for an edge rusher, Alex Highsmith would be great in Raheem Morris's defense. Now, he's a little older. He's not going to be, 23 to 25 years old. Not going to be somebody you're like, oh, God, what a great young player. But he's not like 33. He's not Joey Bosa. He's somewhere in the middle. And I think Alex Highsmith, you can argue, has been the better edge rusher than TJ Watt the last 2 seasons with the Steelers. And the only reason why they want to trade him is because of the money. And San Francisco just freed up $20 million by re-signing Trent. And could technically fit his deal under the books for the next 2 years. Or redo his deal. And going into that, the Niners could also redo Odighizuwa's deal and get money off of that thing too. So it's like there's a way that maybe you're not plugging in a 25-year-old unproven second-round draft pick or even first-round draft pick next to Mikel. You're putting in a 29-year-old, I don't know how old, Alex Highsmith is, but, late 20-year-old edge rusher that has played in the defense relatively similar to Raheem Morris's. You can play stand-up, he can play hand in the dirt. And he's proven, immediately. And you'd walk into the year with the best edge rushing group in the entire division. Bosa is still the best edge rusher in the division. And Highsmith would probably be the third best, fourth best one. That seems legit to me. Now, obviously, Aaron Rodgers comes into play of what he's going to do this year and everything. But if the Steelers don't want to wait and if San Francisco's let's take a chance, I'd have no problem trading Mac Jones. For Alex Highsmith, yeah, you get better instantly. You can take a guard at 58. You can get your guy you want for the offensive line there instead of waiting until round 4. You'd instantly improve your team. Now, do I think it'll happen? No. But just an interesting, tossing it out there. We are 3 days away from the draft. And with that in mind, what do you think about the Niners' draft plans? Do you think it's edge at 27? Do you think, no, they're going receiver? Are you saying, Sterling, it's Caleb Lomu, I'm on the Todd McShay train? What do you make of John Lynch saying that we want to trade back, basically? We want to get more picks, whether 27, 58. They want to move back at some point in time. They want to pick more players. Would you trade Mac Jones for Alex Highsmith? Would that be the deal you make on draft night and say, hey, what a massive win for the 49ers? And what about Brandon Aiyuk? Would you move him? Do you think they can move him? Are you hoping and praying they can find some sort of return for BA and wash their hands of this disaster? And of course, drop your thoughts on Trent Williams, brand new 2-year, $50 million contract extension. Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you hate it for whatever reason? And do you at least wish they would have waited a couple more days to maybe be able to get some leverage over some teams hoping to go tackle at pick 27 or before or after in this year's first round? But drop your draft thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to follow us on social media at 49ers.access is the Instagram. 49ers_access is the X or Twitter. Use our promo code 49ersaccess, 49ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. And I will be live Thursday and Friday on 95.7 The Game, breaking down the entire NFL draft pick by pick on YouTube. And if you're in the Bay Area, again on 95.7 The Game on the radio or the Odyssey app. Going to be a great time, our third consecutive year doing so. For days 1 and 2, we'll see about day 3. Hopefully that comes into fruition soon enough, but going to be a fun draft day. I'm going to have more content coming your way. We'll have our final mock draft out on Wednesday, and then a handful of live shows leading into the draft itself. Going to be a fun week, one of the best weeks of the year, because after this, everything goes dormant. Everything goes quiet. No one's really talking much. And minicamp starts, then OTA starts, then it goes quiet again, then training camp starts, and then lo and behold, we're here. Think about it this way. We are 4 months away from football. Roughly 4 months away from football. It just ended, and it's almost here again. What a great time of the year. A little bit of spring cleaning happening, and the Niners doing some spring adding to their roster the next week or so. Can't wait to watch it. Hopefully we get some good picks, and hopefully you'll come back here for the mock draft, and of course tune in to 95.7 The Game for our draft day coverage. But until then, my name is Sterling Bennett, and as always, stay faithful.